This is another episode of The Fuzzy Mike.
This is The Fuzzy Mike, the interview series without format, without boundaries, without focus. This is The Fuzzy Mike.
This is an interesting episode of The Fuzzy Mike. I know I've taken some time off, and it's just because I've been very busy, number one, and that's really no excuse. We're all busy. I understand that. But I just haven't been inspired, you know? Ever since October of last year, my mental space has been very, very good. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Ever since I found Laurel Weirs and started working with Laurel, my self-loathing has stopped for the most part. Okay, I'm now comfortable in my own skin. Doesn't mean that I'm completely cured of all of my mental illnesses. I am still, I still deal with depression, but it's on a different level now. It's not because I feel terrible about myself. It's that it's just the chemical thing, you know. We're still working it out. We're still trying to figure it out. And then the other thing is I got put on lithium. And the lithium is because I was easily agitated. I was very irritable. I was just becoming somebody that I did not want to be. And so I went to my psychiatrist, and we figured out that lithium might be the answer. And so far, it's working. So anyway, that's where I'm at, and that's why I haven't really done much of anything. But this is kind of a one-off sort of thing for the Fuzzy Mike. And it was an idea that was brought to my attention by a new friend of mine. And I you know, when you say a new friend, you know, it's like, well, did you just meet the other day? Actually, no, you've actually heard this guy on the podcast before. He's the lead singer and founder of Rorschach Test, one of my favorite industrial bands ever. And I never thought when I saw James Baker in 1996 or 97 on tour, that he and I would become as close as we are. We talk, you know, at least once every other week, if not more often than that, via text. And he called me the other day and said, "Hey, I got an idea. You know, March is National Women's History Month, and his wife, Christine, the Narcoleptic Goddess, and then the headline artist that I saw with James and Rorschach Test back in 96 or 97, a band that I've seen 3 times and will see again in April for a 4th time on the road with James and Rorschach Test, Gen from Genitorturers. They wanted to kind of get together and celebrate Women's History Month and talk about, you know, what it's like being a woman in the field of heavy metal music. And I thought, you know what, that's a great idea, because I'm sure they've faced some obstacles, and I'm sure that they've had to overcome a lot in a male-dominated sector of music. And I thought it would be great to talk to them. And selfishly, I'm a fan of the goddess, you know, that's what I call her, and a big fan of Jen from Genitorturers, and I can't wait to see Jen and Rorschach Test in St. Louis on April 23rd. I'll give you all the tour dates and all that kind of stuff during the program here. But, you know, I thought, you know what, James, that's a great idea. Thank you for, and he didn't want to moderate it. He said, you know what, I'm going to go to the pro. I'm like, who you calling? He's like, you. I'm like, well, I don't know if a pro is accurate. But, you know, I enjoy doing this, and I love moderating conversations, and I love being a part of conversations. So, James, great idea. Thank you for bringing me in.
Hello.
Look at you.
Look at you. It's been a while.
The hair is the exact same color as the background.
Ta-da.
Lady, you got style.
Magic.
You are magic. And, hey, let me tell you something. The new single that you wrote about the shadows. Phenomenal.
It's a good one, isn't it?
It's damn good.
It's about my sleep disorders.
I know.
Did you see my cat in the video?
I did.
Shadow?
Yes, I did. Yeah, you know, it's so cool because, you know, what you write is so from experience, and it's so authentic because you're writing what you go through.
I would say so, yeah. And I got a bunch bookfuls of similar things that my husband can turn into songs if he wants sometimes.
That's nice. Speaking of your husband, he just logged in too. There he is.
There. Oh, look, you're in space.
Hey, so Jen, I don't know there's an emergency or something. She's pushing it back to 1:30 if we can do that.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
The spaceman. So
Yeah,
what? We got 30 minutes then?
apparently. But I mean, if we don't want to just hang out for 30 minutes so we can reconnect, it's no big deal. Yeah. So
I don't mind hanging out. So
yeah.
how's life been going for you? I've seen cool things happening.
Yeah, life is good. We had a bit of a family setback yesterday. I don't know if James told you or not,
He
but
did. I am so sorry.
yeah,
That's
thanks.
devastating.
Yeah, you know what, Christine, it's been very, very odd looking back. You know, he passed away probably Monday, and he lived on his own. He lived by himself, and we texted him Monday morning. He answered. Texted him Monday night, didn't answer. Then his brother calls him every day. Couldn't reach him on Tuesday. Couldn't reach him on Wednesday. So we're thinking he probably died on Monday, and he's been acting very, very weird the past 2 years. Like it was almost like he felt it coming on. We think it was a heart attack. But anyway, long story short, we're looking back now and we honestly think he saw it coming. You
Hmm.
know, and if you're going to go, you know, go in your favorite chair, listening to the radio with a beer in your hand. He didn't, they said if it was a heart attack, he didn't feel anything.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. You know, but and James and I were talking about this yesterday. You know, my dad, when he hanged himself, he was alone. You know, my father-in-law yesterday, we found him, he was alone. And James is like, you know, he talked to a hospice nurse who said, we all die alone,
We do.
you know,
We
and
do.
I thought that was very poignant, you know, very, very poignant and very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, how have you been?
I have been tired, but good.
Yeah.
When am I not tired? I'm still recovering from the tour that was what, almost 2 months ago.
Yeah. The one that you guys played pretty much on the West Coast, right?
We played in Eugene, Oregon, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington.
How is
Uh,
Colby doing?
Colby, I think, is worn out from the tour. He's had some health issues since we got back, and I think some of it's related to when we went into LA, the air quality of
Yeah.
fires.
Oh, my God.
So
That's right. Yeah.
we went in right in the middle of it, and I was expecting it to be like apocalyptic and seeing, you know, the smoke and stuff. Clearest air quality I'd ever seen, which was odd. I mean, but the fires were further up north at that point. When we were driving over the foothills, there was a bunch of smoke coming over, but that was all we really saw. But when we were there, the air quality seemed great, but you could feel it in your eyes and your nose, you know, and it
Sure.
just felt really weird and kind of bad to be playing a show and all that was going on around you, you know, but everyone's like, just think of it as you're giving these people a little bit of an escape, you know, something, but
Yeah.
it still was, it was a weird feeling, you know,
Well,
but
that's what I'm using today as. You know, I'm using today as a hey, let's get away from the tragedy and let's do something to take our mind off of it. That's exactly what today is for me. You know, and
yeah.
then I get to hang out with two for sure, maybe three cool chicks. Are you kidding me? That's awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I was going to ask you because you said Colby might be a little under the weather from the tour. That tour compared to the upcoming tour, this is like a marathon tour. How do you guys get ready for that health wise?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. Well, if I'm planning on going, because I'm going to be optimistic and think everything works out. For me, it will be a lot of rest and a lot of naps and a lot of sleep because for me personally, just that 1 week, tour and a half, I'm still recovering from it. And then I got the flu afterwards. But with my sleep disorders, as you know, going on tour, you are sleep deprived. And so it's going to be difficult for me, like extremely difficult this time if I go.
With your sleep disorders, how do you, I mean, is it possible to combat those?
Well, for me, not really. So I have narcolepsy, which there's no cure for. There's just like, you know, medications. None of the medications I've ever taken for narcolepsy helps, so I quit on my own. Like they wanted to feed me full of speed, dextroamphetamines. I'm like, I want something to help me sleep. I mean, of course, I'm tired all day and need energy, but I'm like, and they wouldn't do that. They just give me the speed, you know. I'm like, this is prescription meth.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't great on my health, you know. And it started causing side effects, health problems. Like my teeth started breaking because, you know, you get dry mouth. And so I just quit. And so for like 3 years, I went without anything. I went back to the sleep doctor about a year ago and got retested. And when I was first diagnosed with narcolepsy, the doctor was a sleep specialist, and he's like, I highly, highly suspect, like 99% sure, you also have something called REM behavior disorder, sleep behavior disorder, which is when a normal person goes to sleep and enters REM sleep, our bodies paralyze us. Me, when I go to sleep and enter REM sleep, I'm not paralyzed. So I talk, I punch, I kick, I scream almost every night. And I'm talking like I would be the perfect horror movie screamer, like that loud. We've had the cops show up. Try explaining
Wow.
to the cops you have a sleep disorder and not, everything's fine in the house in the middle of the night, but they need to come in and wake everyone else up. And my family that has to deal with it. James gets beat up in his sleep. He, you know, kicked, all kinds of weird stuff. My poor sons had to hear me scream all the time. And then, so because I have the REM behavior disorder, where when I go into REM, I'm not paralyzed. Narcolepsy makes a person spend almost all their time in REM. So I have a double whammy. When I'm
Yeah.
sleeping, I'm almost always in REM. When I fall asleep, I hit REM within minutes. A normal person, it takes 90 minutes to cycle through before you hit REM. And also with narcolepsy, you don't barely ever hit deep sleep. So your body can't recover. You're always tired. But anyway, so when I went to the sleep doctor a year ago, they finally caught on camera that I have REM behavior disorder. So I finally have a medication now that helps, but it's highly addictive. But I'm like, fuck it, it's Klonopin. I'm like, I need it. I see at least a 50% improvement, which is life changing to me. Instead of getting 5 to 10 minutes of deep rest a night, because I can tell on my Fitbit, I'm now getting an hour to 2 hours. Normal people deep sleep. So then I now have more energy, a little bit more during the day. But that's helped a lot recently in the past year. But it's a struggle. It's difficult, you know.
Do they know the statistics? Does narcolepsy affect women more than it does men, or is it vice versa, or is it pretty much the same?
I don't know, you know, I don't
Yeah.
know. I do know that REM behavior disorder is one of the rarest sleep conditions. I do know that there's like a 90 to 97% chance that I will develop Parkinson's disease and another type, Lewy body dementia,
Uh-huh.
possibly. Um, yeah, I don't know if it affects women.
Yeah.
The REM affects men more than it does women,
Okay.
which is odd. And here I am, and mainly older men. But I did my research after I got that diagnosis to find out the causes of it. There's two causes, like hereditary, and then being prescribed certain antidepressants. Now, when I was 12 years old and depressed, they threw every single antidepressant at me. So the medical system actually gave me REM behavior disorder,
Uh-huh.
I believe, for
Well,
taking those medications.
that's why in our previous conversation, you and I talked about this. If you can find a natural way to eliminate your depression and your suicidal ideation, do it because there aren't any side effects from natural. There's
I,
side effects
I,
from medication.
I refuse to take any antidepressant. They've never helped me,
Yeah.
never. And the doctors, I was too young at the time, you know, to say no. And I just thought, you know, well, it's a doctor, you know, trust them, whatever. They're telling me I need to take this, but I've never, it never helped me. And now looking back, I don't think it was really depression. I think it was just part of my narcolepsy sleeping disorder because you're fucking tired. You get depressed, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't do things that other people can do. And I didn't know I had it. And so people always called me lazy. And I was always masking that I was tired and I would always think, how the fuck are these fucking other humans doing all these things? And I'm just like struggling to just take a shower, and have to lay back down. I'm like, so it was just a constant struggle and a mass to try and get through, daily activities of work, showering, even putting on my makeup, and
Yeah.
nobody I just had to hide it, and I thought everybody else might have been like that, but they had energy, but because I didn't get diagnosed with narcolepsy till about 5, 6 years ago. And I suspect I've had it since I was young. um I think I got it from when I got mono, and I've read of many, many other people thinking, and there's research that mono and the H1N1 vaccine spiked cases of narcolepsy.
Hmm.
So
Huh?
I don't know, but
Given what you were saying that one of the medication you take right now is Klonopin. Given James's past history and his sobriety, does he pay extra attention to you on that drug so that you're not falling into that trap?
Um, I think he probably watches to make sure that I don't run out of medication. I mean, I have a history, a huge history. I'm an ex-heroin addict. I used to, abuse Klonopins as well, and Xanax. I mean, were my favorite. Xanax and Klonopins were my favorite. They'll numb everything out and make you feel great if you take a handful. But I only take them as prescribed. I take them when I go to sleep, and you know, James knows that I never run out, and he has an eye on me in case, but he's all for me. We've had long talks about it because I was like, I don't want to go on that medication, but it's the only thing that's ever helped me. And so we had talks about it and agreed that it's, I should try it. And then when we realized how much it helped, we had another talk, and he's like, you definitely need this.
Well,
And
what a testament to your strength and your willpower that you can be on that, having abused it before, and you're not addicted to it anymore. And what a victory for you.
well, I have over, I think, 21 or 22 years of sobriety. Well,
Yeah, I've often heard that you're always an addict, even with
oh,
21
oh
years of
yes.
sobriety.
It's always there, except for me now. I I don't worry about it as much because of the fentanyl, because I know I would never in a million years go out and score any drugs off the street or take anything from anyone, because you can't, even a pill you can't trust unless you see it come out of the pharmacy and they hand it to you. I
Mhm.
have a son. My son saved my life.
How
I would
so?
not be here. I would not be alive if I didn't have my son. Um, because I would have relapsed and I would have kept using. I lost the option of using the moment my son came into this world, and I also lost the option of ever committing suicide and checking out, because I've struggled with that in my life, and there's been times where I'm like, damn it, I'm stuck here because
But
but
you know what? Not seeing kids is a powerful motivator. One of my best friends overcame alcohol addiction, and the bottom line was his daughter said, "You kick it, or you don't get to see your grandkids." And he's never had a drink since.
good for him. It's
Yeah.
it, it's hard, and some people they are faced with that same thing. You either do this or you don't see them, and they still go the other way. And it's the addiction. It's not that they
Well, it's
don't
not for
want
lack
to,
of love, or it's not for lack of desire. It's got a hold of you.
and it gets a hold of you bad,
Yeah.
really bad. Um, Alcohol's like probably one of the worst because it's everywhere.
Hmm.
It's acceptable. It's forced upon you. Even if you're so, like, people, when they offer me a drink, I'm like, oh no, I don't drink. And they like try and peer pressure me into it. And I'm like, no, they're like, oh, just come have just one. It's a special. I'm like, no, I can't,
Well,
And not only can I not, I don't like alcohol.
yeah, well, they do that because they don't think anybody's capable of having a good time unless they're imbibing.
Yeah.
That's what I've always thought. You know, did you see a couple of weeks ago? I read this that there is a person with a higher IQ than Stephen Hawking and Einstein. and he did a research paper that all mathematicians that have seen it say it is absolutely 100% perfect theory. He said he came up with a theory that when we die, we go to an alternate universe. We do not perish forever. We just go to an alternate universe. That's pretty cool.
I completely believe that. Did you read the thing too about the new quantum computer that they have, and it says that it proves that there are different dimensions
Yes. Yeah.
because it's pulling data from the other dimensions.
Hmm.
Yeah, energy never dies. We go somewhere.
All
We
right.
continue on. That brings comfort to me.
Me too. Yeah, me too. I've heard two things about death that comfort me. That was one of them. And then we went to a funeral service, of Catholic religion, and the priest who was doing it said, think about it this way. He says, when we're born, we come out of darkness into light. He says, when anybody dies, they go into light. He says, so think of it as a rebirth. I was like, damn, that's pretty cool.
And also, to add to that, when we come into life, our hands are clenched, clinging to life. When we leave here, our hands open and we let go.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't
Another
that
poignant thing. I like that.
isn't that pretty amazing? That's
Yeah.
always stuck with me since I heard that. I was just like, wow, you
Yeah.
know.
That, wow. It's a very worthwhile conversation that I don't think a lot of people really discuss because, we are afraid to talk about death. We're afraid to talk about our own mortality, aren't we?
Most are, and most um I've also found on my platform on the social medias that I'm not allowed to talk about death. I kept getting restrictions. Anytime I mention suicide or death, I would get banned or my monetization taken away. So now whenever I write about it, I have to like put in little, make the word look different.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And so it's been a struggle for me because I'm all about awareness for suicide awareness, um, addiction. That's where my heart is. These are my people because I've gone through these things myself.
Hmm.
Addiction, and I've struggled in the past with suicidal thoughts. And I know and on my page, I know that there are thousands and thousands of my followers. I hear it every day that are struggling with these things and struggling with mental health. And there needs to be a bigger awareness about mental health and what is mental health? How do we keep our minds healthy? There's not enough people are talking about that, because if we can get there's so many things that we could do every single day for our mental health that are like what you would do to exercise your body and keep yourself in good physical health.
I have
And
found that running is my best medicine.
for for
It's cheap. It doesn't cost a damn thing, you know?
Yeah. And you if you get your body moving, like I for one do make myself do 10,000 steps a day.
Mhm.
If I don't get my 10,000 steps a day in, I can feel it mentally, you know?
Yeah.
I'm off, or if I miss days, I'm off. And other things I do for my mental health is I meditation every single day. If I don't meditate, man, it's a big backslide all the way back to those not so good thoughts, or
Yeah.
and also like self-care. For me it might be a bubble bath. Another big one for me, just self-care, which sounds like stupid or obvious, is making sure I forget to eat throughout the day, drinking enough water. um that's that's self-care to me and helps my mental health, because otherwise I used to be a soda pop junkie. I
Uh-huh.
quit about a year ago. I cut all the sugars, refined sugars, out of my diet, which, as if we were talking about drugs, that might be the biggest drug there is ever, is sugar. It stimulates the same part of your brain that cocaine does.
Yep.
And it's been one of the hardest things for me to quit, is sugar.
Well,
And
that
I will wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes wake up and go get food and eat it, and I'll wake up with chocolate smeared all over me. And I'm like, what is this? What happened? But my body's like, my sleeping body's like, oh, you're not going to give it to us during the day? We'll go get it at night then. But
Yep. I gave up refined sugar about a year ago. I lost a lot of weight, and my mental health absolutely flourished. Now, not only that, but last year on the Fuzzy Mic, you and I with Colby and James, when we all spoke together, I was in a deep suicidal ideation period then. And that was one of the reasons why we spoke. But shortly after you and I spoke, I had a guest on the Fuzzy Mic named Laurel Weirs, and we did a session of ART, accelerated response therapy. Cured me.
okay.
Cured me. I honestly, I went from a 10 of self-loathing to maybe a 1, tops 2 of self-loathing after 2 sessions of ART.
ART, can you explain to me more about that? What it
Yeah.
is exactly?
Okay. So basically, we go through and talk about the traumas that probably forged my depression. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Forged my self-loathing, my self-hatred. And we find the root of that. And then we literally, just through imagery and thinking, change our brain to not think negative about that anymore, accept it. And so basically, the way it worked with me was my dad told me at 13 that I would never amount to anything. Okay. I didn't think that particularly stuck with me because I always used it as motivation, to be successful. But
Mm-hmm.
in our therapy session, apparently it did have a bigger effect on me than what I thought, because whenever I would fail at something, I would consider my own self a failure. Well, what we decided to do, what ART does, is now every time I have an episode of personal failure, I have an image attached to that now. It's one of my favorite images ever. The gargoyles at Notre Dame. Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh yeah, and
Beautiful.
I've put my hands on them on the second floor of Notre Dame. It's my favorite place I've ever been, Christine. And anytime I have a self doubt or a self loathing or a self hatred, I think of gargoyles. Pulls me out of it right away. Pulls me out of it
That's
right away.
That's amazing. So it's rewriting your belief systems, which is
It
the core
it
of all of our traumas.
it retrains our brain, indeed. And it was a 1 hour session that we did this in.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that's why it's called accelerated. You know,
That's
you know,
amazing.
I
So are
blown
there
away.
lots of people out there doing this
No, there are not a
for
lot of
other
people out.
people?
There are not a lot of ART practitioners. She's one of the premier ones in the United States. But she's training other people to do it. It's a more. Have you ever heard of EMDR?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so basically, you take EMDR and put that on steroids. That's what ART is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So not a lot of practitioners. And I did EMDR before, and EMDR, it identified the problem, but never told me how to get through it. Never told me how to get past it, how to deal with it. That's what ART did. So, and then the greatest failure of my life that I think is my greatest failure anyway, was my run that I tried to do in Alaska. And I was trying to do 304 miles from the Arctic Circle to the Arctic Ocean. And I only got 260 and my body gave out. And I thought, you know what? What a failure you are. We have completely changed that too. Now, anytime I think of that, I automatically think of the only sunrise that we saw up there, because it was 23 hours of darkness and it was the most magical sunrise I've ever seen, Christine. And that's what I think about anytime I, you know, think about
I
running up
would
there.
I wouldn't say you were a failure at all if you made it as far as you did. Oh my goodness, that's fucking amazing. And pat yourself on the back. That's still a huge accomplishment.
Well, the mission succeeded because I had great people around me. We ended up doing all 304 miles, but I had to have help to get those last 60 miles in. And so the mission succeeded, but it went back to my dad saying you'll be a failure, and that's why the sunrise and the gargoyle are such important images for me now.
That's amazing. I'm so
Right?
happy for you.
Thank you, thank you.
Such great tools to have, the more tools we have in our little toolbox to help with this up here, the better life's going to be for us. And I just, mental health awareness isn't taught. I think there's still such a stigma with it. And I wish it was spoken about more. I really do. I think if more people talked about their own personal experiences with it, how you do, and you so openly share your past and everything, I think you're touching and helping thousands and thousands of people, And when we went on tour, you wouldn't believe the people that came up to us after we got done and would talk to James and say, I heard your song Belated and it saved my life. I was going to kill myself. And because of your song, I'm still here. And the messages we get saying the same thing, it's repeated. It's saved many people's lives,
Every day was like hell, just trying to stay well. I found the courage to set myself free.
So how does that make you feel when people come up and say your lyrics, your song, kept them alive?
Well, I didn't write that one. That one's inspired by my life and someone I loved very much.
Right.
But,
I knew you had a personal connection to that song. I'm sorry, I thought you wrote it, but no, I knew you had a personal connection.
But it feels good to be a part of the band that's kind of our mission right now. Like James, when he told me when he came back and was recording the album, he says, I feel like I did a lot of damage back in the 90s when I was performing and going on tour and making it seem cool that I was just a drunk and an addict. And I think I inspired other people to do those things. And I want to do music again to show to tell these people and give a message that sobriety is possible. I had an addiction problem, as everyone knew and knows, James has never hidden that, but there is a way out, and there is recovery, and mental health is very important. So he wanted to go back out to try and send out that message. And it's very much the message right now that, the music is trying to put out to the fans and to the world, because if we can help one person still choose life, then it's worth it all,
Well, you talked about James in the 90s, and that's when I was introduced to James and Rorschach Test. And I think waiting in our waiting room is the young lady who introduced me to James and to Rorschach Test. And you guys are going out on tour together again. It's like 30 years later, James and Jen are going back out on tour together. Jen from Genitorturers. Hi, how are you?
How are you doing, sir?
Oh my God, I'm so excited to be speaking with you. And the Narcoleptic Goddess and I have been talking about mental health and all stuff like that. But we're celebrating Women's History Month, and more appropriate than ever having you both on with me to talk about that and to talk about women in a male-dominated industry. And Jen, by the way, I have seen you 3 times in concert. We've got our picture taken together twice, and I will see you April 23rd in St. Louis. Big fan.
Fantastic. Look forward to seeing you, sir.
Yes, indeed. Look forward to seeing you too. So let's, we've got just maybe 3 or 4 questions that I want to run by you and get your thoughts on this. And then, we'll spin off of those a little bit. So the first question is, share a little bit about your journey as a woman in music.
Well, I think the funniest thing is I never thought that I was going to be in music. I don't know if you know my history a little bit, but
you were an RN, right?
No, I always wanted to be a doctor. I did my pre-med at Rollins College, and I always wanted to be a pathologist growing up. My best friend's mother was a pathologist. They were from India. I looked up to her. She wore her sari to work with her lab coat, and she was a big inspiration to me. But anyway, so ended up in Rollins. I was pre-med, and I was taking all these pretty extreme classes, and that's when I started the band. And really, I started the band as a joke. Most people don't know that. It was just like, oh, you'd be really fucked up, as if we just started a band based on genital torture. And it was funny because I'd been doing piercing for, I kind of self-taught piercing. Nobody was doing piercing back then. This is in 84. And so 85, I'm at this bookstore, the largest gay entertainment center. It was called the Parliament House in Orlando. And I walked into the bookstore and I saw this little card and it said, know your hot hanky colors. So your hot hanky colors were like, depending on, this is before internet and how did gay guys meet each other? And it's like, what are you into? So you'd wear a bandana on your left side or your right side if you're dominant or submissive. And, different colors meant different things. So let's just leave it at that. So, if you were into, fisting, that was black. If golden showers was yellow, you can use your imagination from there. But oddly enough, the funny thing was, is it said purple was for genitorture or genitorture E. And I'm thinking, wow, my name's Jen and I'm a piercer. It's like meant to be. So how the band got its name.
Yeah.
So, many moons ago, but I just never, once again, it was something that was just a dalliance and a hobby and fun that I did all through college when I started the band. And then, we started opening for bigger bands and playing with everyone. All these, we started as a really old school punk rock band as a 3-piece.
Mm-hmm.
I played bass and sang, which was pretty unique. I looked up to Motorhead, so I wanted to be Lemmy. I had my mic up here, my bass really low, So played bass and sang for about 3 years in different, iterations. And I said, well, I really want to start doing more of a stage act. I always looked up to Alice Cooper and wanted to do more of a theatrical thing. So that's when the actual piercing kind of came into being, and changing costumes and doing all the crazy antics. Because, before I'd have to put the bass down and do a nipple piercing on someone and then put the bass back on. It's kind of an encumbrance. And I realized that although I was an okay bass player, I started to surround myself with some damn good musicians that were just fantastic. So from there you go. That's where it went. But it was really interesting because the people were really blown away that I was playing bass and singing and piercing people and doing all this crazy stuff as a woman.
You had 3 types of shows, if I'm not mistaken. You had a PG and R and an X-rated show. Yes. And X-rated shows, you had to be a certain age to get in. I was at I've never been to an X-rated. I've only been to the R-rated shows. But I've often said that for a live show, you're one of my top 5 bands.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is a spectacle to be seen with the Genitorturers show.
And it's fun. And that's the thing is too, I have to say, in starting the band, once again, I say, I started as a joke. Well, I really did it to entertain myself because I realized that if you're having fun, the audience is having fun.
Absolutely.
So things like, oh, you'd be really messed up if we did this. Hey, this would be so weird if we did this. And it just kind of goes on from there. And we just kind of had this sense of humor about it, and tongue firmly planted in cheek, so to speak. We just created something that was a spectacle and still is a spectacle.
So, got us your story about how you got into music and how you got where you are today.
How I got into, well, I kind of got pulled into this.
Kicking and screaming, right?
Well, kind of. So I started playing bass exactly a year ago on March 1st. And my husband wanted me to play bass in the band, and my goal over the last year, I had a New Year's resolution because I like to remain hidden and not seen. And on my social media page, where I have over 600,000 followers, I didn't even show my face until the first time for like 2 years ago. So, and people can be brutal. People can be really, really, really mean. And so one of my goals was to come out of the shadows and face my fears and show my face and get outside of my comfort zone and to do things that I always kind of wanted to do in my life, more like a shadow work kind of thing. Like if I'm not perfect at something, I don't want to do it. And I'm not perfect and I'm not the best bass player in the world, but God damn it, I can practice for 6 hours a day and I can get better and better. And I was sold once I found my pink Kiesel, and I was like, oh yeah, I will rock that Kiesel. I will learn whatever song you want as long as you buy me that Kiesel. And I got the Kiesel, and so yes, now I play bass.
You brought up something that I was going to ask both of you about for different reasons. You talk about the negativity that people have towards you on social media. How do you deal with that?
At first, it was a little disturbing. The first time I ever showed my face, there were like 222 comments, and they were all wonderful except for 7 of them. Guess which comments linger on in my head forever?
Uh-huh.
7. We
Yeah.
as humans always cling to the negative and kind of push off the good. So it's been kind of an experiment in shadow work for me. Now I'll post my face just to upset people. People aren't mean anymore. And the amazing thing is, since I started playing bass and I share that with my followers, they have been nothing but supportive and encouraging. And at every show we played on the last tour, people showed up and were just like, that's strange to me because that's usually not how a female is accepted into the music industry, but it's a little different for me because I have the platform with, over 600,000 followers. So I'm very supported by them.
Sure. And Jen, what you do is intensely personal, with creating your art and creating your music. How do you deal with negative reviews, negative feedback, criticism?
I don't give a fuck. I mean, I'm not even joking, you guys. I do not. You have to remember, I started this band in '85. There was no internet. There's none of this stuff. So I'm just very old school. I'm very punk. I'm very like, OG when it comes to this stuff. And I don't pay attention to it. I'm not online a lot. A lot of our social media is handled by our drummer, Chris. He likes it and he's tuned into it. I'm kind of off the grid, man. I mean, I go out, I do my shows, and I am who I am, and I really don't. I do it for me and for the fans that love us, and I don't get derailed by anything. Period.
That's kind of the attitude that you have on stage too. Let's talk about your stage
You
presence.
see is what you get, my friend. The real.
For Jen and Genitorturers, is there a too far?
Well, in terms of too far, obviously, violating anyone's personal space in a way that they don't want that. Everything we do is consensual. Nothing under the age of 18 in terms of people participating in our show, things like that. I mean, I think that's just common sense. So, I mean, too far. Have we done a lot of really, really extreme acts on stage? But yeah, but those were consensual things with adults that wanted. Like, for example, I had this guy, he was the vice president of Baxter Medical, which is a medical supply company that actually made like the needles and a lot of the sterile things that I use for piercing. And he found out about us and he was a huge fan and he would fly his private jet to our shows for one reason, because he wanted me to perform scrotal inflation on him on stage. And it was his thing. And so he'd show up in this rubber outfit with a rubber kilt, and he would bring all the supplies, the saline and everything, and we would do an infusion into his ball sack, essentially, blow it up the size of like a volleyball.
Oh my God.
And then he would leave wearing his kilt because you have to reabsorb it.
Really? Yeah, so there's no line.
But what I'm saying, but that's consensual. It's
Yeah, no, he wanted it. Yeah, absolutely.
very
Yeah.
extreme, but it's consensual. And so for him, it gives me great pleasure and happiness.
Uh-huh.
I'm not, it's funny. They always call it S&M, like sadomasochism. And I'm not a sadist. I'm actually a pleaser. I'm somebody that wants people to be happy, whether it's with music or, our show or anything or participating. I just, the look of complete just love and joy that this man's, he enjoyed having his balls filled up the size of a volley. If you can imagine this.
I can having been to
I mean, the story number 69, which one you want? We've been around for like, you can do the math how long that we've been doing this. So
absolutely. So I think we kind of answered the question about how you go through self-doubt, or is there ever a period in your life, both of you, that you had self-doubt that you had to navigate through, and how'd you do it?
I know that I personally do have self-doubt a lot, and I have huge imposter syndrome. Like, to me, I'm not a musician, but people are like, you are a musician. I'm like, but no, I just learned how to play bass and I could barely play it. And then, on tour and getting on stage, it's I'm like, I'm not supposed to be here. Someone way better should be playing this amazing Pink Kiesel, So I struggle with that and thinking I'm not good enough, and imposter. I feel like an imposter, like I shouldn't be here.
How much, with James having so much experience in the music industry, he's your husband, how much support does he give you, and how empowering is he to you?
He just tell he's just like, oh yeah, you can do it.
Well, you
But
can.
I can, but
You are.
I practice a lot. Like, that has become my life, is practicing, because it's not easy to pick up a bass and play a bass, and I'm not coordinated. My little fingers don't want to go as fast as their songs sometimes. So he's been encouraging. He bought me the amazing Pink Kiesel, and he's always encouraging. So I'm grateful for that.
And Jen, you talked about 1985 is when you invented Genitorturers. So we're talking 40 years now. I'm sure you've got a
Ouch. Oh.
what? No, you
Yes.
can. Yeah, you can go ouch,
I
ooh,
own it.
oh, but
I own it. I'm just kidding.
a band to be around for 40 years and still making new music and going out on tour, on a marathon tour starting on April 18th. I mean, come on, that's not something to ouch over. That's a tremendous accomplishment.
I absolutely appreciate that. And to be fair, I really appreciate that our fans still show up. They want us to come. I mean, it's really been a neat, I mean, our last, what, we did a big tour in 2019 with Lords of Acid and Orgy. And that really kind of really set my soul on fire again. Like, this is awesome. We had great shows. Unfortunately, then COVID happened, right when we got back in 2020. So we had to cancel. We were at that point so excited about playing. We had 3 tours booked that we had to cancel in 2020. So then we came back. We did the live streaming thing in 2021, like a lot of people were doing at a production place here. It was really, really cool. But, just seeing that, like, having that interaction with fans that have been bringing their kids now.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we had sex after your show. Here you go. Here's our child. And he's like 30.
How have you?
But it's really a neat thing just to see the passage of time in that regard, and note how, our fans have really stuck with us.
How has the role of women in rock music changed in those 40 years for you?
I think immensely. I'm not seeing the barriers that were there 40 years ago at all. I think that there's a huge paradigm shift in the way that people view female musicians, especially in rock and metal. That, when I'm thinking about, my icons were Joan Jett and Wendy O, and believe it or not, Cyndi Lauper too. She used to play. And I just want to say, I just think that there's just so many more opportunities now. I don't really feel held back at all as a woman, or in the same way that I say that I did feel back in 40 years ago. I don't really think I really ever internalized it though, so it didn't bother me. I only had a couple of odd experiences with kind of like sexism, and frankly, one was the fact that when I was in medical school and I was doing organ transplant retrieval stuff, I went into the Emmy's office for a case I was doing. It was my first day, and I'm have blonde hair. I'm like 24 or whatever it was, or anyway. And I hear the medical examiners back there, like kind of going, "Oh yeah, that's the new girl. Oh yeah," and like. So this is pretty rude, but this did happen. This is another true story. So I go in there and I'm on a case, and I was an eye donor, and I go and I say, okay, the body's in the back in the cooler. And so I go and get the body out and blah, blah. I hear all this little commotion in the back room. And then I open the body bag and there's no head. And it's an eye donor. And I go, and I hear them laughing in the back. And I go in there, I go, okay, where's the head? And they go, well, you can have it if you can find it, little lady, kind of thing. And I went, really? So I went in the cooler, and I had to open every body bag that was in there. I finally found The head. They'd put, it was during bike week in Daytona, and this guy had run his motorcycle under a truck, so it was decapitation. And they had the head in a bag, in a bag with an 86-year-old lady. And I thought that was pretty rude, between her legs. And I got the fucking head out and I marched into the office with the head, and I said, "Who the fuck's going to help me get this head out of this helmet?" And they all went like, "Whoa." She's because they didn't expect that reaction out of a young 20-year-old girl. I go, "Okay, which one of you guys are going to come help me with this?" And they're like, "Okay." Fuck up. They never did that again.
So where does that inner strength come from? Where does that confidence come from at such a young age too?
You know what? I have to say, I think a lot of it has to do with my parents. I can credit my parents. I have really wonderful mom and dad who just told me I can do and be whatever I needed, that I want to be. They really encouraged me to follow my dreams. They weren't upset with me when I left medical school to, after we got signed with Irish Records to pursue music. I can always go back. You can't take your education away,
Mhm.
So I just kind of like, just the confidence really came from having a really strong mother and father that really I felt very loved.
Hey, Narcoleptic Goddess, Jen just brought up dreams. How is reality the same or different from your dream of what you wanted to become, what you have become? And Jen, be thinking about that answer for you too, because that's the question.
It's it's not at all what I dreamed it would be. It's completely different. I wanted to be an astronaut actually when I was young, and I gave up on that dream because I failed my first astronomy test in 6th grade. I kind of wish that I would have stuck with it, but I think I would have had a panic attack going into space. But I
could,
feel like reality is so much different than what I dreamed it would be, but it's so much more amazing. I have an incredible life, an amazing life. Like it could be a reality TV show, and I think so many people would tune in. So many wonderful things in my life. I mean, I'm able to live these things with these huge sleep disorders that I have, and not all people that have the sleep disorders that I have are able to live a life like me. So
Yeah,
I'm
no, I
very
was going to say that's like the narcolepsy's got to be a pretty debilitating and pretty confining disorder.
yeah.
It is. It's extremely difficult,
Yeah.
and I'm not physically capable to go at the same pace as everyone else, and I've had to really learn to rest and self-care and take care of my mental health because that's seriously affected with sleep deprivation, and it's taken me up until just the last few years to get balanced with that. And I really put a huge focus on my self-care and meditation, breath work. I make sure that I do these things every day. Even the simple fact of making my bed every day makes my mental health better, because if I don't accomplish anything throughout the day, at least when I come back to my bed, it looks nice and it's inviting, and I did one thing today, and that makes a big difference mentally.
Well, there was
So
there was I can't remember his title, but he was in the U.S. Navy and he did the commencement address at the U.S. Naval Academy, and that was the whole crux of his talk was just make your bed. Make your bed every morning. Make your bed, because then it'll kickstart your day and it'll become a routine, and then you're in your zone, you're in your pace. So, Jen, how is reality compared to the dream?
More than I could ever say grace over. Let's just put it that way. I'm very, very, very blessed in my life as well. Had a lot of fantastic experiences, traveled all over the world. I have a fantastic man in my life that we do a lot of traveling together and experience a lot of different, fun times. Really into fishing and boating and snorkeling and diving and just all the great things you can do here in the lovely state of Florida. So it's beyond. Coming from Albuquerque, New Mexico, as a mountain girl, coming out to Florida, the culture shock was huge. And now I get to look at the water every day. Right now, I'm looking at dolphins right there.
Wow,
Right in front of.
cool.
So I never expected this. And once again, I never expected that the band would even be remotely something I would do other than just, a dalliance. I mean, I really thought that, no, I'm on a path to pre-med medicine and I'm going to stick to that. But, when you follow your passion, you're going to be the happiest.
Yeah. So talk to a young girl who is listening to this right now and wanting to follow her passion. Give her that advice. What advice do you give her?
Just be strong, be focused, don't give up, don't give into adversity.
Christine?
just pursue your dreams.
Yeah.
Persevere.
Goddess?
I would say to never give up. And if you want to do something, you can do it. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Do it. I'm
Well-
living proof that you can do anything. I just picked up a bass a year ago and I have been on stage. So it's never too late. If
No.
you are older and you have dreams that you haven't fulfilled yet, it's
There
never
was
too
a-
late to start.
There was a guy in the news the other day who, when he was coming out of high school, he wanted to be a dentist. He did not get into dental school because he couldn't pass the test. He's now 55 years old, went back and got his dentist. He's a dentist now at 55 years of age. And, like you said, it's never too late. If you have a passion, continue, strive for it, try to make it happen, because as long as you're trying, you can make it happen.
And also, I'd like to say that if you are passionate in doing something you're passionate about, it will never feel like work.
Nope.
And that's an amazing thing. Like my social media, and as stupid as it might sound, the memes I make, that was a hobby and that was something I just did that I was passionate about, and it blew up huge and I get paid now to make memes. Who would ever think that, But it's never work because I'm passionate about it and I love it,
Yeah.
So I think if you're really passionate about something, go after it. That's your calling in life.
And if you'll do it for free, you've found your passion.
Completely.
You really have that. I always say that to anybody that wants to go into broadcasting, because I never worked a day in my life. For 30 years, I was on the air, and it was fun every single day. And so I always tell people, if you'll do it for free, then you found your calling, you found your passion. So we can't wait for April. I know April 18th, you start the Scars and Stripes tour. Genitorturers going out with Rorschach Test. 30 years after you guys, I think, went out together. I saw 2 of those shows, and that unbelievable that you and James have reconnected. I was so excited about it.
I was so excited too because I got an email from my agent. I'd lost track of James. We'd kind of seen each other here and there over the years. He'd come out to some shows, but I was really excited. And then when I saw their videos and heard their songs, their new music is fantastic.
So yeah, let's play a little bit of the new Genitorturers song here, and then Jen, you tell us about the origins of this song, and so here's a little bit of it.
Scars and stripes forever.
And James and I talked about this the other day when we were setting this whole thing up, and he said that's probably the best Genitorturers song in band history, because it's talking about social relevance. It's talking about, it's not so much about BDSM anymore. It's about social awareness.
Well, it is, and it's also about overcoming adversity in general. Is kind of the vibe of the song. It's just so interesting because the song was written over 20 years ago.
Wow.
This is crazy. It was recorded over 20 years ago, pieces of it. We kind of lost track of the tracks, literally, and then found this hard drive, and there it was. And I looked everywhere, high and low, and we kind of took some of the old recordings back when Angel was our drummer. That's a long time ago. And, just we kind of we used the original tracks, kind of recreated a few things, but really the lyrics were the lyrics. And when I listened to the lyrics, I got chills, because like, oh my God, it's like about like COVID and about like lockdowns and about like, you know, all these things that every single part of the song, depending on who you are and how you listen to it, it's so pertinent to what's happened in recent years, and just really just so powerful. I was like, oh no, we're putting this out. I'm like, yeah, we're getting these tracks, we're putting it out, we're gonna master it. No, and I'm really excited about it. I think people are gonna really like it.
But
It's a
how
great
cool!
song. I heard it too. Love
It's an amazing song. But how cool is it that sat for 20 years and still relevant, maybe even more relevant today than it was back then?
So, and what's other thing, it was creepy because, you know, we wrote the song and then for whatever reason, we didn't put it out. And then we even had a t-shirt, a Scars and Stripe Forever t-shirt. And we sold a ton of the t-shirts. We never put the song out. So funny, after we did this, I couldn't find the art either from that t-shirt, because I know I want to release the t-shirt. Well, that was on a jazz drive. Okay. I don't remember what a jazz drive is, but we're not so it's somewhere. So I had this pop artist recreate, you know, the thing, but I did find the original photo from the t-shirt, which was another really kind of very, very emotional thing for me, because it was our photographer, Ward Bolt, who took a lot of photos of Genitorturers, really famous. He did a lot of stuff for Alice Cooper, Ozzy, really great photographer. But he, unfortunately, after COVID, he actually committed suicide. So
Oh, wow.
this is going to be dedicated to him.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, my whole Fuzzy Mike is about mental health and suicidal ideation. And, you know, I think we're all one degree of separation from somebody who has done that, you know, or know somebody who has done that. So,
And it was really hard. And you know, it was interesting because, you know, on his Facebook, he started posting all of his art from all the people he photographed. And he photographed me personally and Genitorturers so many times over the years, you know, for many, many years. And he just started posting and posting and posting, and all these people were going, oh my God, these are amazing photos. And that's when I kind of saw. And then the last picture was a picture of him, just in the shadowy kind of picture. And he just says, I'm going to take my exit now. And he posted his picture. That was the last one. And it's just like, oh my God.
yeah.
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 I'm so sorry for your loss, Jim.
I know. You can tell how devastated you are still, you know, and so well, we carry on in his name, you know, we carry on in his honor.
But that's why I wanted to find the original photo.
Yeah.
Recreate the art with the original photo, because I think that's a really special thing.
It really is. And that you guys are going back out on tour together with Rorschach Test. I can't wait. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Happy Women's History Month and continued success in life to both of you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Fuzzy Mike with Kevin Kline. Check back often and stay fuzzy, friends. Fuzzy Mike is a presentation of the Kevin Kline Fuzzy Mike Industry, Incorporated, LLC.